Today we're going to write an Java EE web application, and we're going to write a simple login application with a servlet and a JSP page. And it's a tutorial that is being used on IKEA for the Technology 1 course. And let's look at some prerequisites that you must have in place before you can follow this tutorial. And the first one is that you should have IntelliJ Ultimate Edition installed. And if you don't have it already, you can go to this link and apply for a free student edition. And then you need an Apache Tomcat application server that can be freely downloaded from tomcat.apache.org. So please install that on your machine. And if you have a Mac, you can, after you unpack the downloaded file, you can actually drag it into the application folder and leave it there. And if you have a Windows machine, after you have installed Tomcat, it will automatically be installed in the program files directory. Then you need, on top of that, a JDK, a Java Development Toolkit that is downloadable from Oracle's website. And also then you need to install Git and the visual front end called source tree that you can download from this link. And then you need to create a GitHub account. But I'm going to walk you through the whole thing, and the last part about pushing the project up on GitHub, I'm going to put that into a separate video. So the plan is to create a Java project in IntelliJ that's running on a Tomcat application server. After that, I'm gonna show you how you can play a little bit around with a JSP page. And we're going to create a form on the JSP page, like a login form. And then I want to show you how, after you have filled in the login form, how you can actually redirect that to a servlet. So we need to create a servlet and configure that, and then receive URL parameters. So I'm going to show you how you can receive parameters from either from the URL, or you can receive the parameters from a form, so which is a post. Then I'm going to show you how you can validate the login information, the user credentials that you get from the JSP page, and then send the result back to a JSP page. And when all that is done in a separate video, I'm going to show you how you can create a Git repository and push it to a remote repository on GitHub. So that's the plan. First, I'm going to start IntelliJ, and then I'm going to create a new project. And I'm going to select here the type of project is a Java Enterprise project. And if you select here from the libraries and frameworks, we're going to find and tick off the web application. And this is a default create web XML, which we want. And up here, the project SDK, I have chosen Java version 1.8 and Java EE version 7. And as the application server, I have chosen my Tomcat server. If you don't have a Tomcat server selectable from up here, you can go in and say new, and then you say new Tomcat server, and then you find it on your computer. So I could actually find it here in my application. So in here I have Apache Tomcat, and I would just say OK. And OK, and then it's installed up here. Then I click next, and we need a project name, and I'm going to call it, my project name is called webapp tutorial, and I'm just going to save it in my documents folder. You can do it wherever you want. And after that, I'm just going to say finish. Now IntelliJ is going to create a lot of folders and set up the whole project for me. And it's also going to include the necessary jar files for the Tomcat application server, and the whole Java libraries are included here. And then you can see there's a particular file structure or folder structure set up here. So there's a source, there's a web directory here, and there's a webinf and the file web XML, and here you have the default index JSP file. So I'm just going to double click that one and see what's in there. And the JSP files, when you create a web application like this, you should regard it as a front-end file, and mostly it's pure HTML. And up here you could say the title here. I could maybe I could change the title to web app tutorial page, and in here in the body itself, I just want to type in the famous hello world, and I could even tag it up as a H1 headline. That's it. And I could maybe write a brief body text. This is my first web app. Okay, a JSP page. Okay, that's it. So now I'm gonna save this page, and now I actually want to show it in my web browser. So I will go up here and press the start button. And now IntelliJ will compile whatever's needed in the background, and then up here you can see my page. I made a mistake in the heading, so I can just go back here and I can say what went wrong. I think IntelliJ created an extra tag here, and I save it. And then I can actually go down here and I can just reload, and I can say update resources. And if I go back, I can just reload the page. And now you see I already changed it. If you look up here in the URL, it's localhost on port 8080, and the file, I don't need to write index.jsp, but I could do that. So this is actually the default page. So when I type localhost port 8080, it will actually look in this folder called web and take the index.jsp file. So now I'm up and running with my first web application. So now we have created our project in IntelliJ, and we have run the first test. Now I want to show you how you can modify and play around with the JSP page. So I go back to IntelliJ, and primarily this is supposed to be just pure HTML, but also we need to be able to insert a few things in here, and you can actually do quite a bit on a JSP page. Although you have to be a bit careful because it's not really recommended, but you can actually insert Java programming directly into this page. So I just want to show you that you can just type a tag, this one here, and this is an end tag, and whatever you write in between these two tags, you can actually write Java here. So I could actually try and let's say we wanna put in a date. So I'm just going to make this one equal new date, right? And if I do that, I actually want to hang on a second, like this. And if you noticed, IntelliJ actually inserted this import Java util date automatically in the top here, and in that way you can actually just write pure Java code. So now I could actually write here out print, and I could just make a, let's see, like a little bit of HTML plus, and then date toString plus, and I could maybe write just like an int tag here. Okay, so what you see here is just what you would normally write in a Java class, that I can just print out today's date. And if I save this and I go down here and I say update resources, I go back to my browser and then I reload the page. Now you can actually see the date is being inserted here. So, but this is a bit ugly that you just mix in Java and also front-end HTML. We would actually we would like not to do that too much, but you can actually see that JSP it's a powerful technology, and you can put whatever you want in here. But I think the main recommendation is not really to do this, but now you can see you can actually do it. I'm going to show you later how you want to put more dynamic code in here, that you actually get it sent from a servlet instead of programming it directly into the JSP page. Well, so the next thing is that I just want to prepare this login page. So I just want to create a form on a JSP page. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm actually just going to right-click my index page here. Or I could maybe I should just go up here and say new, and I just want to have a new JSP page. Okay, and I want to call it login.jsp. Good. So this is my, I just want to type in login, and I go down into the body part, and now I just want to write like a welcome. Please log in. And now I want to just make like an ordinary HTML form, and the way I can do that is actually just to say, so I make a form tag, and this form tag, there should be an action. So whenever someone presses please log in, it's going to send me to a page called /login, and that's a servlet that I'm going to write later. So you could call that a backend page, and then I want to say that the method is called post, and I'll come back to later why that is. So this form here, I want to have it has to say please type in a login name. Okay, and I need an input type is just text. The name should be login name, and the width, I want to make that, let's say 30 characters, and then I end my input tag here, and then I say password. I need another input tag here, and then the type should be password. The name, oh, I just made a mistake up here. The name for this tag should be password, and the width, let's say 10 characters default. Okay, so I'm almost there. So now I just want to say input. The last one, type submit, and this is my button, submit button, and the value should be login, and that's it. And I want to make the whole thing as a I think this is pretty okay. Okay, so this is my form, and now I want to check out what it looked like. So I go down here, I reload, I say update resources, and then I go to my browser, and I actually called the page login.jsp, and now it shows me my login form here. So login name, I can type in that, a password, and I can type login here. If I just press login, you'll see that this one up, it changes to login. And now it says, I couldn't find a page here. So this is a page that I call login, and this is my servlet that is going to receive whatever I sent from the login form here. Next step is that I want to create a servlet that can receive the content from my login form. And let me show you how you do that in IntelliJ. So we need to place on web here, I place all the front end stuff, like the JSP pages are placed in this folder. And then in the source folder, we're supposed to place all the servlets. So I'm going to create, I go in here, and then I want to right click, I say new. And first I want to make a package. And then I'm going to call that webapp, like this. So that's the folder for my servlet. and then I double click, and then I say I want to create a servlet there, and it's going to have a name, and I'm going to call it login. And the package is already in here, it's in webapp, and the class is called webapp.login. And this you got to tick this one off, create Java EE annotated class, and I say okay. And now you see my servlet is actually ready here. And as you can see, it's a regular Java class called login, and it actually inherits, or it extends a class called HTTP servlet, and I get access to a lot of methods via this inheritance that I can use. And as you can see up here in the import, I'm importing a lot of classes from the Java EE library that I'm going to use down here. So IntelliJ already created these two methods. One is called doPost, and another one is called doGet. The idea is now I have my servlet, and the idea is that when I up here, I just type, instead of .jsp, this is my JSP page. And but if I remove this one, I actually, right now nothing happens. But what I want to is that this URL should actually fire this servlet that is placed down here, this one here, login. And but in order to be able to do that, we need to do a little bit of configuration. And if we look into this, the web folder, and I look into this webinf, and this file called web.xml, and in this file I can configure what is going to happen if I type on the URL just login and not JSP. And let me have a look. So this is some XML that is configuring what is going to happen, and there's a certain tag here called servlet, and if I say servlet name, if that is called login and my servlet is called login, then it says servlet class, it's called the webapp.login, right? So this is the first piece of configuration that I'm doing here. So now I'm mapping, I want to map this login name. This is the name of the servlet, and this is the class that it's being mapped to. And then the next one here is called servlet mapping, and the servlet name was called login. And down here, the URL pattern is called /login here. Okay. Now look, now I have created my mappings. So when I hit the /login on the URL, it should actually redirect to this particular class, which is my servlet. And so now I want to go down here and I want to refresh, and then I actually restart server, because we need to restart the server in order to have this URL pattern being activated. Okay, so then I go up here and I try to just type login, and you see now it's just a blank screen, which means that I actually hit my servlet. And so it means that I hit this one here, but then nothing is happening. So what I want to try now is that I want to send a parameter, and maybe you know this, on a URL you often see this question mark, and now I want to write login name equal, and then I just write my name, let's say Jon B, and then I say password equals test123. And if I type this, of course nothing is still happening, but now these two values here, I'm just doing this to show you a little thing about servlets and how you can actually send request parameters from the URL to the servlet itself. And the way I do that is that in the servlet, when this method here is fired, doGet is what gets fired when I type return here. I'm actually sent exactly to this method here called doGet. So now look at this URL. So I have the two request parameters, one called login name, another one called password, and I send these value along with it. So when I type return, it's gonna fire this particular method here. So it's gonna take my login class, and then it's gonna fire this doGet method. And so if I wanna show you how I can pull down these two parameters, login name and password, in here I need to do a few things to be able to write something to the web page. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna use this class called printWriter. I'm gonna use create an object called out, and this one is I'm gonna use the response object and this getWriter. So now I'm actually able to say out.print, and in here I could say login name, and now I can actually take this request object. There's also a response object, but I'm going to take the request object, and the request object contains these particular values that I sent through the URL here. So if I type request.getParameter and I take login name, because this is the name of it, it's called login name, and I could also, if I wanted to, I could say password, and now I can take the request.getParameter password, and then it should be outputted to the web page. Now I just need to go down here and say redeploy, and then I'm going to compile this code. And if I go back now to my page here and I press return, it's actually being outputted here to the web page itself. So you can see, so if I just go up here on the URL and I press return, then this HTTP request is being sent to this servlet, and it fires the doGet method with these two parameters, the request and the response object. And down here I'm actually outputting these values right here. So this is a way that you can communicate to a servlet, and then you could do something with these values. So, but then there's another method called doPost, and the doPost is actually the one that we want to fire. If I go back to my JSP page, I'm just going to open up a new here, and I say localhost login.jsp, and I have my form here that I can say login. And if I use this one and I press login, I'm actually going to end up here. So now I'm going to show if I actually take my JSP page here and I type in some values and I press login. I actually want to show you that I fire this doPost when I'm doing it from a form instead of from a URL. I used these parameters before, but now I just want to use this form here, type login, and then I'm going to end up here. So I'll just copy these ones here and show that if I end up here, I want to, just to differentiate, I want to make a print line, and then I'm going to say do post version. Okay, and then down here I'm just going to type out the same values again. I just think I want to add in a space here. Okay, and then I go down and I actually want to say restart server. If you have created a lot of changes and you're not really sure whether they're going to be compiled, you can always say restart server, then you're pretty sure that everything will be recompiled and deployed from fresh. So if I take this one here and I say login, and now I try to use this as a login, I type 1, 2, 3, 4, and I say login, it's actually gonna, you can see that I hit this do post version, and it takes my login name. It says Jon B, KRDK, and password 1234. So it actually works. So if I fill in my form here, I could say test user. I say A, B, C, D, and I type login. You see now it's my test user and password A, B, C, D. I could maybe beautify this a bit, make a colon. Then I would just say a login name, colon, space, password, space, and then I will just say redeploy. Okay. I go back, I refresh the page, login, and now you see it looks a little bit more readable. Okay. So now I have my JSP page with a login form, and when I type login, the values get posted to this servlet called login, and I'm actually able to pull out the values through these two request parameters. So now maybe what I should do now is actually to send the parameters to a particular result page, and I just want to show you how we can do that. So here I should maybe make a new page here. So I go to the web folder, I say new, and I create a new JSP page, and I call it welcome.jsp. So my idea is now that I get redirected to this very page here, and I just call it welcome here. And in the body here, I create a headline called welcome. And now I wanna say, I make a paragraph, and I say dear, and now I wanna put in the username, and then I will use this way of doing it. So I create these curly brackets, and let's say I call it username, and dear username, your password is, and then I wanna put in this value called password. So this is my idea that I just want to output. Of course, you should never show a password on a web page like this, but we just do it just to use it as an example here. So I say welcome dear, I want to output the username and the password here, and I use this special notation here, and this special notation with the $sign and the curly brackets is called expression language. And it actually just a very simple and clean way that you can print out values that comes from a servlet. So I just need to get it sent to my JSP page from the servlet, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I go back to my login servlet, and these things here, I don't want to use this to output. I just want to call my front end, and the way I do this is by doing what is called a dispatch. So to send the values, I'm going to use the request, and you can see the request object is here. So I'm going to take the request object, and I'm going to use a method called setAttribute, and then I want to call my attribute. I call it username in the JSP in the expression language. So I say username, and so I want to set the attribute username, and then I say comma, and then I want to get it from get parameter called login name. So the login name is actually this request parameters that comes from the post from the form. But now I'm going to set it into the request object by doing it like this. And then I'm also going to set attribute login name, comma, request get parameter login name, and sorry, not login name, it's password. Yes. Same here. Okay, so now I have stamped these two values into the request object. So now I'm gonna use this called get request dispatcher. That method I'm gonna call login, no, not login, welcome dot JSP, and I probably need a slash. It's in the root directory, and so it's gonna call this page, and then I'm gonna forward my request object and my response object. Okay, so this looks a little bit hairy, but if you get used to it, it's actually quite logical. So first I'm gonna stamp by this username, and this one is called password, that in my welcome page, when I use these expression language username and password, they're being sent from my servlet as username and password, and I'm gonna stamp down these values from this request parameters that comes from my login form, and then I use this method called get request dispatcher. I'm gonna send you to my welcome page, and I'm gonna forward these two objects, request and response. So I'm now saving my page. I'm gonna remove this up here. I don't need this anymore. I save, and then I'm gonna redeploy. I go to my browser. I'm gonna reload my form here, and let's use this one. I call it just JON. I call it test123, and I'm gonna send this, and now you can see it actually says welcome, dear Jon, your password is test123. And the cool thing is you can see this is my servlet, and now I'm actually being redirected to the welcome JSP page. Okay, so as you remember, my welcome JSP page, dear username, your password is. So now I have actually created my login form, and I can go through my servlet, and then I get sent back to a welcome page. So we are almost done now. Let's go back to the plan here and see that now we created the servlet. We reconfigured the URL, so we could type /login and then hit the servlet. We tried to experiment a bit with picking up request parameters through do get, and also receiving request parameters from our form through the do post. And then the last thing we did was that we sent it the values through the dispatch to the JSP page called welcome. So the next thing is now that we actually want to create a method so we can validate our login. And I'll just do it very simply. So I go back to IntelliJ. I want to create this is where I want to have all my servlets for the web app. But I'm going to create a new package here. And the new package, let's just call it app layer. And in the app layer, I want to create a new, just like a regular Java class, and let's call it user. And in my user class, I'm gonna create a method, and the method I want to call it we make it public, and it should return a boolean is valid user credentials. I want to pass in a string called username and a string called user login, no, user password. And just to keep it very simple, we could maybe make a lookup in a database and validate the user credentials, but I'm just going to do it very simple. So I say if, and let's say as username equals, and then say it should be this Jon B. We take my key email here, and as user password equals test123. If that is true, then we're gonna return true because that is the right credentials. Otherwise, let's just return false. Okay, so this is my my user credentials validator. So I send in a username and a password, and then if the username is Jon B. KDK and the password is like this, I'll return true, otherwise I'll return false. Okay, and then I go back to my login here. Okay, so now I want to use my new validator. So so in here I say if first I need to create an instance of my user object. So maybe I should write user app layer, and then it automatically gets put up here, so I import it. So I say user, and I call it user object equals new here, and then I should be able to use it down here. So I say user object dot, and then I'm gonna call my isValidUserCredentials method, and I'm gonna call it with let's say request dot get parameter login name, comma request dot get parameter password. So if this is true, we're gonna call my welcome JSP page there. Otherwise, yeah, well, what should we do otherwise if we don't get validated our user? We should maybe just go back to the login page. So then we could, I'm just gonna copy this one. Let's say go back to the login.jsp page, and we should maybe send a value back with an error message, and and then remember how we sent parameters to a JSP page. So we just say request set attribute. Let's call it error message, and we call it invalid login and user and password. Try again. Okay, so I think we're done now, so I save it. And then the last thing I need to do is, okay, so if we come in here, we check the user credentials, and if it's being validated, we're gonna send through we're gonna call the request dispatcher, we're gonna send it to the welcome page. Otherwise, we're gonna send it to the login page, go back again to the login page, and we're gonna send an error message. And so then if I go back to the login page up here, we could maybe just pass it in here, and I can just say error message. It's gonna type it here, and I could actually, if I really wanted to, I could even make it, maybe make a little HTML style, color red, like that. So if the error message has a value, it's going to be put in here. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to deploy my web app again. So I go back to my JSP page. Let's type something that is not true. I say login. It says invalid login and password, try again. I'm going to put in Kia test 1, 2, 3. It says welcome, dear Jon, your password is. So now I actually ended up in the right place. So this is the conclusion of this first video. And let's just reiterate that first we created an IntelliJ project, and then we played a little bit around with the JSP page. We created a form on the login.jsp. Then we created a servlet, and then we created in the do post how to receive the different values, and then we validated the login form, and then we send the result either to the welcome page or we put an error message back to the login page. So the last thing we just need is to push the whole project out and up on GitHub, and I can show you that in another video.